Now, if we are running into a problem that we can't solve using the sine rule, another thing that we can think about is the cosine rule, which basically says that if a triangle has the lengths A, B, and C opposite the angles A, B, and C respectively, that's capital A, B, and C, then this is a formula that we can use. Now, before we start using it, let's break it down to make sense of what's going on, right? So it's basically saying that C squared, which would be this side squared, is equal to the square of the other two sides minus some little extra things that's going on right here, right? So if you think about it, this first part of the formula is kind of like the Pythagorean theorem. It's just that you have this extra, 2ab cos c. You recognize that AB are the sides that would already be right here. So it would be the sides in front of that squared sign that we have, c squared. And we're multiplying them by the cosine of c. If you think about it, the cosine of c is right here. So really, that extra is just those two sides and the angle that is between them. So when we remember that, then we can use that to apply the cosine rule to any side, to find any side or any angle. Because if we think about it, instead of c squared, let's say that I wanted to find a squared, right? So I wanted a squared. Then it would be equal to the square of the other two sides. So if it's a, then it's going to be b squared and c squared, not c cubed, minus 2 times these two sides, b and c, and the cosine of the angle between them, which in this case would be a. So it would be 2bc times the cosine of a. If I wanted b squared instead, so I wanted b squared, then what do you think that would be equal to? Well, it would be equal to the squares of the other two sides. So it's a squared plus c squared minus 2 times those sides, 2 times a and c, and the angle between them, which would be b. So it would be 2ac cosine b. And that's the cosine rule. Now, let's see if we can use it to solve our problem. Now, in this example, we want to determine the length of the unknown side JL to 1 decimal place. And this is the side JL. JL is right here. Okay. Now, what do we know? Well, we know this side. We know this side. And we know the angle that's between them. Okay. So, if we think about it, remember the cosine rule told us the square of this side is going to be equal to the square of the other two sides minus that something, which involves these sides. So I'm going to name my sides. So since this is the side K, I'm going to call this common K, the side opposite to it. This is L, so I'll call this common L. And this angle is J, so I'll call this side common J. So by the cosine rule, okay, then we know that k squared, which is what we want, I'm going to put it because that's what we want, is equal to L squared plus J squared minus, we're going to take these two sides and the angle between them. So it's going to be 2 times L times J times the cosine of capital K, or the angle K. Now that we have that, all we need to do is to substitute. We don't know k squared. We know that L is 7, so this is 7 squared. J is 3.2. And that would be minus 2 times 7 times 3.2 times the cosine of k. And the cosine of, k is 30. Now, remember I said it's so great when you have a good calculator, because I'm just going to bring mine up and I'm just going to throw exactly what I see here into my calculator. So that's going to be 7 squared plus 3.2 squared, okay, minus 2 times 7 times 3.2 cosine 30. And that is going to work out to be 20.442 something. So I'm going to write it to 3 decimal places just to be safe. So that's 20.442. So k squared is 20.442. So now that I have k squared, all I need to do is figure out k. So if k squared is 20.442, then k is going to be the square root of 20.442. And if I go back to my calculator and work that out, the square root of 20.442, I'll get 4.5 something. But I only want it to 1 decimal place. That's just going to be 4.5. So k is going to be equal to 4.5 units.